I think the main reason I chose A&M is because my dad was an Aggie, and he was a war veteran, class 45. And as I grew older and paid attention, I began to see someone that I wanted to emulate, someone that I respected. And I guess my biggest motivation was wanting to be more like my dad.
I would say the exact same reason. My dad was class of 1957 and brought us to College Station a lot for Aggie events, and just really getting to know the university through the eyes of my father was really inspirational.
Well, I'd have to start in 1976. I was actually a transfer student to Texas A&M from Laredo Junior College. And the reason that's important is because I think I matured a great deal before I got here. And as a sophomore, I felt like I was a little more focused as a student. That doesn't mean I made great grades, but perhaps I was a little more focused on what I needed to do to actually graduate from A&M, which I did in 1979. I was very fortunate early in my career that Randy Matson hired me here at the association in 1981. I thought that would be a short stint. I was the field director. I was supposed to go out and make friends for the association. And I did that with great passion and dedication. That turned into 42 years of service to this great organization, the last 22 of which have been as president and CEO. And I'm very humbled by the opportunities that I've been given and inspired by the many thousands of Aggies I've been able to meet who have dedicated their lives in many ways to serving Texas A&M, which is terribly inspiring to me as a professional. I'd have to say the last 22, and not just professionally, but personally. For most of my career in those early years, 18 years to be exact, I wasn't married. And so I meet Lisa. We get married in 1998. We immediately have children. And many of the lessons that I was able to apply in leading a team came from home. Came from the innocence of children, seeing their father and understanding that actions, perhaps more than words, provided as much leadership as anything. And so a lot of my experience in learning and leading came from being a father as much as being a president and CEO. We met here at the association. Lisa's uncle was a good friend of mine, Dr. Joe West, a distinguished alumnus of Texas A&M, class 54. And he had promoted to me that I needed to hire this young lady, which apparently I did not. We have a little differing opinion on that interview. But ultimately, Lisa came to work for the association in, I'm not sure the year.
After I graduated in 92.
Yeah. You came from Houston, right? And worked in, I guess, our clubs area. I was associate executive director at the time. And I'd see her around, and you know, we just kind of had an eye, I guess, for each other, so to speak. And long about 1996, we started dating. And I knew in 97 she was the one, and we got married in 98.
Well, the first time we met, I actually did come and interview for a master intern position, but I was looking for a paying job because I was a poor college student, and there were no paying jobs at the time. So that's actually how we first met. So I did not get the job, but I didn't actually want the job because it wasn't paying.
Well, I saw it in my dad. My dad led himself before he led anybody. As the head of household, he didn't have to say a whole lot. He led by example. It took me a while to understand that and to apply it. But as I got older, and again, as I became a father and a husband, I realized the obligation of leadership at home and how that transcended everything in my life. And indeed, being a chief executive in charge of, at the time, 46 employees, now 85 employees. But I've seen it in our board. I've seen it in our team. We're blessed to have such great leadership, particularly in our management team, but throughout our organization. And every day I learn something about leadership and how I can be a better leader. And as I've told many people when asked, and in many speeches about leadership, it's not about telling people what to do. It is simply about inspiring them to do what needs to be done.
Well, I learned a lot from him as a parent and how he parents our children. A lot of times as a mom, I'm telling my kids what they need to do. And instead, Porter is kind of trying to bring them around to, hey, this is a great idea. So I think every day just watching him parent our kids, and now seeing that our oldest has graduated from A&M, and she really seeks out his advice a lot and considers him a great resource, as all of our kids do.
I adopted an approach many, many years ago that goes like this. It's the gentle art of letting the other fellow have your way.
He's mastered that.
I'm inspired by what I see at Mays. I'm inspired by Texas A&M on the whole. But as a proud graduate of Mays, seeing the leadership that has come out of that college, my good friend Eli Jones, who's also being honored with this outstanding alumni award, Jerry Strasser prior to him, and many leaders, deans, associate deans, faculty members, people that I know have given their all to support the great College of Business that we have. To me, I want to support them. And that's been my motivation for giving, is to make Mays the absolute best business school in the country. I've had many. I'd start with my dad again. I know there's a theme here, but that's an absolute fact. The greatest leader and the greatest mentor I ever had. Earlier I mentioned Herb Thompson, who really probably saved me at A&M and kept me in school in many ways. A great marketer and somebody that I had great respect for and came to admire as a marketer and became a mentor over time. But I've actually found a lot of inspiration and mentorship from Lisa as a mom and as a friend and as a wife, and indeed my children. But sitting around this table behind me with some of the greatest leaders Texas A&M has ever produced, and seeing the nobility and the selflessness of their approach to doing what is in the absolute best interest of the Association of Former Students is inspiring beyond words. Those people have provided me a motivation and an inspiration that on my worst day, I simply reflect on the people that sit around this table, that work in this building, and things get better immediately.
In my first years, I would say my father, and in my latter years too, but my uncle, when I was a student here, Dr. Joe West, class of 54, he really held my hand through school, and anytime I was struggling, he was certainly there for me. And then my husband and my children, and just as Porter was saying, his board. I mean, we've been so blessed and fortunate to be around so many wonderful leaders through the association and A&M. That really it's what everyone wants to be around, but we're so blessed to be around it all the time. Well, my father was in the military, and he was a pilot, and was gone a lot when I was growing up. But probably around 4th or 5th grade, he retired, and 1979, and I was able to spend a lot more time with him and just watch by his example, and just a strong Christian, godly, just a wonderful person, supportive. Really just watched my parents' relationship, their respect they had for each other and love, all up until he passed away a year ago. So just really just very blessed by that.
I can. One of the quickest ways to describe him relates to his service in the military and fighting in Germany in 1944, where he was severely wounded and in fact thought to be dead and put on a gurney and yet survived, and wounded twice, as a matter of fact, and was considered handicapped by everybody except himself. He never allowed himself to have the mindset of a handicapped individual. And although he was challenged to walk and do many things, he never accepted a walker or scooter until late in his life when he absolutely had to. So tremendous inspiration to me to see a man that was A, supposed to be dead, B, never supposed to walk again, do everything from hunt and fish to play golf, and just daily demonstrated a great spirit of life and what it's all about, and that's selflessness. And he just didn't know he was inspiring so many people, including his family. But I just sometimes am at a loss for words, because he was a man of few words, but a man of great action. And I often reflect on lessons learned where he never spoke a word. I'm very proud I'm humbled. I'm well aware. I've been on the other side of that recognition so many times. And so I'm humbled because of all the great people that I've seen come before me that have been recognized with this award. I still have a ways to go here. I hope to live up to this award. And I'm humbled by the fact that Eli and Brian are coming in this class, and I know of the great work they've done. So it means a lot, not just to look back and see the ranks that I'm joining and how I might be considered worthy among them, but indeed to be next to Eli Jones and Fern, good friends, two great Aggies, people that I admire and have great respect for, who have done so much for Texas A&M. And Brian, who is a great Texas Aggie, who is a great professional. And both of them I know are incredibly deserving. So I'm not sure how I slipped under the radar, but I'm very proud to be a part of Mays and to be honored.
Wow. That's quite a question.
I've been asked this question many times, and I shy away from it because I don't give a moment's thought to legacy. It's much like I've given a couple of eulogies in my life, and in both cases, one was Lisa's dad, and one was for Catherine Greenwade. And in my opinion, the exemplary lives those two individuals led required no eulogy. And so in terms of legacy, I simply believe, as my father did, if I live my life as I should, legacy takes care of itself, and it'll be the facts and it'll be the truth. And that's for other people to decide, not me. I think in that regard, when you take the literal definition of legacy, there's no greater legacy than your children, because they are a reflection of you in many, many, many ways. And I think our legacy is, as Lisa and Porter, is going to be best defined by the success that our children are and how they lead their lives. So I guess if I had to be pinpointed to an answer, I'd want to be remembered as a great father, a great husband, and someone who raised three great children. You know, I've reflected on that to the extent that whether it's my children or students that come by and visit, and I tell them there are so many opportunities at Texas A&M. And when you look at the diversity of this student body and kids from all over the world, 130 countries, I'm told, virtually every state in the United States, I think some great advice would be to get to know as many people as you can and learn from them and understand the world that they are about to step into, and step into that world with as much knowledge, confidence, and indeed the great Aggie Network. A lot of success is out there because of Aggies supporting each other. And I have seen it my whole career. Perhaps no one has appreciated it more than I have, because I've seen it, I've been a part of it, I've helped broker it. And the best advice I can tell some of these kids today is take advantage of all the great resources at Texas A&M and get to know your fellow Aggies.
I would say really just building those relationships, that there's so many great people around, asking them questions while they're still here to ask questions too, and just really relying on those relationships and giving back.
In terms of leadership, and trying to perhaps, quote, transform somebody who needs transformation, there's an old saying that I have come to understand, believe, and promote. And that is, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And with our own team, the investment of time and concern and genuine interest oftentimes provides the greatest transformation that you could hope for in an individual, be it a family member, child, or indeed a staff member that you work with, a colleague. So I think of that quite often when transformational leadership is discussed.